Welcome to this episode of Unscripted Mom. So glad to have you here. Thank you for even clicking on this video. It means a lot. So today in this episode, we're going to talk about separation and divorce from a child's perspective. Recently, I've seen so many people who are going through a divorce, who are going through a separation, and yet they have kids. And I felt it is right for me to talk about it, having gone through it as a young girl. And what we will share today is what I personally went through, and it's my truth. Okay, so when I was young, my parents divorced, and it really took a toll on me. It really disoriented me. Everything I knew and believed in, it was destroyed. When people are going through divorce, I really honestly feel I pity the children, mostly parents who are going through a divorce with kids. It is hard, and it was hard for me and even my sibling, and I thought, maybe why don't I share from a child's perspective? Okay, so you see, there's some pointers I'm going to give you on how you can go about it. One of them is to tell your child the truth. Sit them down, tell them the truth, and the truth will generally be in regards to their age. And the truth also is part of the truth is not everything. Do not be too explicit with your words, or do not go too much details about it. You know, don't tell them things that really they do not really need to know, but tell them the truth. And this is how you can tell them that mommy and daddy we are going through a divorce, and because maybe, you know, we are falling out of love for each other. And just explain to them, just give them just a brief, not everything that you need to tell them. Another thing, please always affirm them that you love them. It is so hard. You know, a child goes through so much, gets to have so many ideas if you don't tell them. There's this narrative that people say that ni mtoto, she's a kid, they don't know anything. But the truth of the matter is they do. They do not know how to express it at their age, but they do know, because they've been with you since they were born. They've seen the arguments, they've seen the quarrels, they've seen the lack of communication, they've seen so many things. So if you tell them, they will not understand. It's like telling them they are dumb, and yet they are just children, but they're not dumb. So tell them and assure them that in spite of everything, that you love them. Affirm them, always affirm them. If you can manage to sit together as parents and explain to them and affirm them that in spite of us going through a divorce, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. You are still loved. You are a child. You are our children, and we still love you. And nothing has changed. Mommy will always be mommy, and daddy will always be mommy. That affirmation constantly makes them not have ideas, or makes them not blame themselves. Because I remember there was a time, and I recently just got over it, is that I thought I was the fault. It was my fault that my parents were divorcing. It was my fault that there were so many arguments. It was my fault that my parents always had to quarrel, always had to fight. There were some instances there were fights, and I always blamed myself. And you see, it destroyed my mind. um I got even suicidal when I was a kid, and it was bad. It is really bad. So affirm them. And also, as you explain to them, it's good to always realize to accept the questions that come with them, that come with the information. They will always have questions. They'll one day you tell them they seem good, and then the next day they just want to ask you question. One question, what happened? What will happen? What's next? They'll always have questions. And it's always good to sit them down and explain to them, even if they ask you the same question again and again and again. It's just a way of they want to feel reassured that nothing is changing. So sit them down, explain to them time and time again until they get used to this new life that seemingly is beginning. Okay. Another thing, sometimes even with the discussions I've had with with friends who have had such an experience of divorce from parents, especially us who are millennials, we had just a hard time. It was at home. It was either your family was separated, or even though a couple, your mom and dad was in the marriage, but they were not happy. They were always unhappy. They were just there for the sake of the children, which I'm a believer of marriage, and I'm a believer of marriage lasts, but that narrative of kuvumilia ndio for the sake of the children, I don't agree, because you become so miserable, you become so angry, and you even lash it on your children. So if it gets to that point, I prefer you leaving. I prefer ending it, But as I've said, I'm a believer of marriage. But I digress. So you see, if you feel that you have lost so many years of your life with this person, now you're hurting, you are in so much pain. There's something that parents always seem to forget or ignore. That yes, you might have invested 10 years of your life with this person, with your ex. You have invested 10 years, 5 years, whichever number of years it is, that it has up to now, that it has gotten to this point. There's one thing you ignore as a parent, that your child knows nothing else than mommy and daddy being in the same house. They grew up, they saw it, they were born into it. So their life, if it's 5 years, like my child who is 7 years of his life, he only knows that it is mommy and daddy, no one else. So in as much as you're going through your emotions, please understand your child also is going through the same emotions. And it's good to put yours aside kidogo, or have it or experience it elsewhere. But when it comes to your child, try and embrace him or her, and just always console them, because it's so hard for a child. It's really hard. Trust me, it is really, really hard for a child. And especially to a child who is very sensitive. We all have a child in our life, in our family, who is a sensitive child. And I do not mean sensitive in that manner of such a crybaby, but some things really get to them than others. That child, you really need to invest more time and invest a lot on them emotionally, so that they don't feel either neglected or, as I've said before, blame themselves. My other points is, do not, as you're going through this divorce or separation, which I'm really sorry about it, as you're going through it, at no cost or at no point would you speak ill about your ex to someone else? And I'll explain why. Do not talk ill about your partner or your ex to someone else, e.g., your mother, your brother, your sister, your auntie. Avoid it at all costs. And this is why. It will come to bite you in the butt sooner than you think. I'll give you an example. So when my mom and dad separated, officially, I was at my grandparents' home. And so I was going somewhere. My mom had left, my dad had left. We were left Kitambo. During the holidays, we all rushed to our grandparents' home. So as we were there, I was in a car with my auntie, my grandfather, and my uncle. And something had happened the day before. There was an argument that heated up, and now my dad and mom left. So as we were in the car, my auntie started speaking ill about my mom. And it was so painful hearing it from her. She will say such hurtful words, and it really hurt me so much. And I think my uncle realized it, and then he tried and told them to stop talking about it. And you see, they thought that since they were speaking in a different language, in Kikuyu, I would not understand. But really, I understand Kikuyu. It's just that I couldn't speak it. And it hurt me, and I got to forgive her, that auntie of mine, just recently, through a lot of soul searching and a lot of therapy, is when I really forgave her. But you see, you speak ill about your partner to your family members, and that narrative sticks with them. So that's the only thing they will see. That's the only thing they will talk about. That's the only information they have that they can see. So do not try and avoid completely. If you must rant, if you must speak ill about somebody, maybe you go to a therapist and just vent there, because a therapist, really, it's hard for them to interact with your child. But avoid it, okay? Really avoid it. And there's something someone once told me. In as much as my mom could be the drunkard, she's the most drunkard woman in our village. The kind that you'll pick her from the trenches, or she's the known witch doctor, or my dad is the most serial cheater, that she remains to be my mom, and he remains to be my dad. And in as much as even I myself can see that they are doing things that are so shameful, it is so hurtful for someone to speak ill about my mother or my dad in that way. Sometimes it's even much easier for me to say, yeah, my mom is like this, because it comes from me. But coming from somebody else, it's hurtful. Please avoid talking ill about your ex to someone else. Another point, I think, as a parent, is especially those who are doing co-parenting. Once this marriage is over, let it be over. Allow it to end. Do not be invested in knowing what your ex is doing. Do not be invested in knowing what your ex is up to. Do not be invested in knowing his or her daily activities, whom they are meeting, whom they are seeing. Your investment should be your child, the child that you got together. How is his performance? How is she performing in school? How is her interaction with people? What do you need to buy for this child? But what your ex is doing, avoid it. Because some parents tend to use their kids to get information about what your partner is doing. So maybe let's give it, for example, it's you're co-parenting and it's time for your child to go to the dad's place, and now once they are there, you expect your child to gather information, to get so much information, so that by the time they're coming back home, they're like, mommy, let me tell you, daddy did this, mommy did the daddy bought this, mommy, daddy is seeing someone. Do not be invested. In fact, if your child comes, put a boundary, create a boundary with your child that daddy has his own life, mommy has my own life. Okay. If it comes to introducing a new partner, I believe you should even have to sit down with your ex and say, I want to introduce person X and Y to her son. But do not be invested in knowing what they are doing. And do not let it be your child's business to go gathering information about your ex. Whether it's from the simplest thing like buying a new car or moving to a new place or having a new job or whatever. Do not. It is done. Your marriage has ended. Unfortunately, you're going your separate ways. Let it be that. Separate. Okay? The only thing that you need to be invested in is in your child. I hope that makes sense, and I hope it resonates with you. The other thing, I think, mostly, as we've said, about sensitive children, or generally every child, is sometimes if you start seeing your child going through some episodes because of being in this now situation of being separated, I would really advise for therapy as soon as possible. Go with your child for therapy. Go with your child for consultations, counseling. I really wish that was done on me. I really, really wish. I really wish it was done even for my brother, because for ever since that separation, it broke me. It messed me up. I was such a good performer. I was the A student. I was such an A student. I was top 2 all the time. But when this happened, I became now bottom 2, second last in our class, in our stream, because I was really trying to. My emotions were all over. I was in such a bad place, and I wish somebody would have taken me through therapy, and let me speak out and just talk. I believe it would have done something for me and my sibling, because separation is hard. It's hard. It's painful. It's painful for you as partners and also for the children. So take your child for therapy. And even for those who I meet and we talk, I generally always ask, how is your son? How is your daughter? How is your child in all this? Because sometimes ignoring the fact that your child also has emotions, later on you start saying that your child is becoming unbearable, becoming a nuisance, becoming kichwa ngumu. You put all these tags on your child, yet it's because of that hurt that he or she did not know how to handle it, and yet you did not help in trying to solve that hurt. So get your child to therapy. Take them for therapy. I know of a friend of mine whose son had started zoning out. He was such a bubbly child, playful, and now he's sitting at a corner, just quiet. That sudden change. If you can afford, please take them to therapy. Please take them to therapy. And also, you can check therapists or counseling places that are free. I believe there are churches which are free, that offer free counseling. Take them for counseling. take them for therapy. You will thank me later. If your child goes for therapy, things will align better. They'll have a clear understanding. Maybe that therapist will explain to them in a way that you cannot. And also it gives them time to be explained to as you also deal with your emotion. If you can go together, and I understand, and I do not want to assume that through this breakup, through this separation, that you're all on the same page. Sometimes I know it's maybe the mother who is who needs to do all the cross bearing, because maybe the dad has left, or maybe it's the mom who has left, and now you as the dad need to man up and be the, try and explain everything and sit them down and try to be about the mom and dad. Whichever the case, however it is, whichever the case it is, just take up that role. It gets better. It gets better. And I really hope with all these things that I've shared with you, part of it as my life story, I hope it encourages you. And also you as a mom, please, as a parent, please go for therapy. I know I've said therapy so many times, but please go for therapy. Do not be miserable. It will help you control your emotions. You will not need to be miserable, even towards your children. There's something that happens when you separate, because you're also bitter. Some of these things you tend to unleash on your children, because they're the easy bait. You bitter towards them, you yell at them, you call them names, and yet you also trying to handle this separation now that you're trying also to handle this new life as a single person, as a single parent. Society already is making you feel less and less of a human being because you're separated. And people, I don't know why people think that marriage is such a trophy. It's a blessing. It's not a trophy. It's not something that you win. Okay, so even as a mom, as a dad, try and try and get therapy, and so that you can learn how to control your emotions towards your child, and so that you do not be miserable and bitter towards them. I'll give you an example. So when my mom left, when now my parents had separated, my dad had the legal custody over us. And so this was a new territory for my father, because before it was my mom and dad, but now it's my dad who's now this legal parent. And now it got to a point that my dad was so mad. He always used to seem so angry, and anything I said, he would yell at me, and he would even, there was a time he even beat me very bad. And I could see it is the frustration, because he needs now to be the breadwinner, he needs to be the parent. He's a single parent. We used to just go see my mom over the holidays. And I'm so grateful that my dad, I think he realized it. I think after he beat me that day, I remember he's telling me, I'm so sorry, mommy, I'm so sorry, I'll do better. And really he did. He outdid himself. I think he also got therapy. I should ask him. But I think he got it, and we started mending our friendship, our relationship, and he never took out his frustrations on me. And now we are very close. Even now we are really close with my dad. And you see, he saw something was off. He tried to talk about it. He sought help, and now we are happy. So with all this, I really pray and hope that anyone who's going through a separation, anyone who's going through a divorce, as you're coming to terms with this, please also help your child come to terms with it. If it is not if it has gotten to a point that it cannot be solved, that it has to, you as partners need to go your separate ways, I pray that you will hold your child, that they should not, that their emotions will not be affected with this. I wish you all the best. Please get therapy. Please talk to your child. Please assure them, affirm them. If you've not gotten anything from this, please affirm them that, one, it's not their fault, that this divorce is got nothing to do with you, the child yani. It has got nothing to do with you, and nothing has changed. We still love you, and nothing has changed from me and Daddy. We're still your parents. We love you so much, and nothing will ever change. Thank you so much for showing up on this episode. I hope it has given you insights. I hope that you learn a thing or two from it, and I'll see you on the next episode.